Hello, beautiful people. Let's talk about something that sits at the very heart of our lives, our relationships. We all look for that one special person, that soul connection. We build a life together, brick by brick, with love, trust, shared dreams. But what happens when a crack appears in that foundation? I'm not talking about the little disagreements over what to watch on TV. I'm talking about a deep destructive force that can shatter everything you've built. That force, my friends, is greed. It's a quiet poison that can seep into the strongest of marriages, turning love into a transaction and a partner into a possession. Greed is a tricky thing. It doesn't always show up wearing a big, flashy sign. Sometimes it whispers. It starts small. A little secret here, a hidden bank account there. It convinces you that what's yours is separate from what is ours. It makes you believe that having more things will make you more whole, more secure, more powerful. But what I know for sure is that the pursuit of material wealth at the expense of your partner's trust is the fastest way to emotional bankruptcy. It's a lonely road that promises everything, but leaves you with an empty heart and a house full of meaningless stuff. Think about it. When you stand at the altar, you promise to love, honor, cherish. You don't promise to secretly stash away money or to value a stock portfolio more than your partner's well-being. The vows we make are about creating a shared life, a partnership where you are stronger together than you are apart. Greed breaks that sacred promise. It creates a secret life within a marriage, a world where one person is operating from a place of self-interest instead of mutual interest. And when those secrets come to light, the explosion can tear a family apart in the most devastating ways. Today, we are going to look into the lives of people who learned this lesson the hard way. These are stories of everyday people, just like you and me, whose lives were turned upside down by this very human failing. Let me tell you about Mark and Sarah. From the outside, they had it all. A beautiful home in the suburbs, 2 wonderful kids, a life that looked like a picture-perfect postcard. They had been married for 15 years, having met in college and fallen deeply in love. Sarah was a teacher dedicating her life to nurturing young minds. Mark had a successful career in sales, which often required him to travel. They seemed like a team navigating the ups and downs of life hand in hand. Sarah trusted Mark completely. She managed the household finances, paid the bills from their joint account, and never thought to question the numbers. Mark, however, was living a double life. He started small, opening a separate bank account that Sarah knew nothing about. He would skim a little off his commission checks, telling himself it was a rainy day fund. But soon, a little became a lot. He started making secret investments, buying properties in another state, and building a small fortune that was entirely his own. He justified it by telling himself he was protecting the family, but in reality, he was building a wall between himself and the woman he had promised to share his life with. The deception went on for years. He had mail sent to a P.O. box and used a separate phone for his secret business dealings. Meanwhile, Sarah was making sacrifices. She turned down promotions that would have required more of her time wanting to be there for the kids. She clipped coupons and shopped sales, always conscious of their family budget. She believed they were in it together, building a future one careful step at a time. She had no idea that Mark was living in a completely different financial reality, one where he was a wealthy man on paper, while his family lived a modest life. The truth, as it always does, eventually came out. It wasn't through a dramatic confrontation, but through a simple, heartbreaking accident. Mark was in a car crash while on a business trip. When Sarah went to the hospital and began sorting through his belongings to find his insurance information, she found a wallet she had never seen before. Inside was a driver's license with an address she didn't recognize and bank cards from accounts she never knew existed. The discovery was like a bomb going off in her life, shattering the image of the man she thought she knew and the marriage she thought she had. The aftermath of Sarah's discovery was pure devastation. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the betrayal. 15 years of her life, of her trust, of her love, felt like a lie. The man she had shared her bed with, raised children with, planned a future with, was a stranger. Every memory was now tainted. Secret investments during their anniversary dinners, lying to her face while planning family vacations. The emotional toll was immense. Sarah felt a profound sense of foolishness and shame, questioning her own judgment. How could she have been so blind? The practical consequences were just as messy. The divorce proceedings became a nightmare. Mark fought her at every turn to protect his secret wealth. He hired aggressive lawyers to paint Sarah as incompetent and unaware. The process dragged on for 2 long, painful years. It drained their joint savings, put immense stress on their children, and turned the family into two warring factions. Their home became a source of conflict. Friends were forced to choose sides. For Mark, karma arrived in unexpected ways. He may have kept a portion of his fortune, but he lost everything that mattered. His teenage children understood his deceit. They grew distant and resentful. The relationship fractured. His reputation in the community was ruined. He was no longer the successful family man, but the deceiver. He had money, but lived utterly alone in a sterile luxury apartment. Sarah walked away with a fair settlement, but no amount of money healed the wounds of betrayal. The divorce left her emotionally exhausted and financially insecure, forced to rebuild her life from scratch in her 40s. The true cost wasn't dollars and cents. It was the destruction of a family, the loss of a father's bond with his children, and the shattering of a woman's belief in love and trust. A life built on secrets is a house of cards, destined to collapse. So, what is the aha moment in this story? What is the one truth we can all take away from the wreckage of Mark and Sarah's marriage? It is this: trust is the currency of a relationship. It is more valuable than any stock, any property, or any dollar amount in a bank account. Without trust, you have nothing. You might have a house, but you don't have a home. You might have a partner, but you don't have a partnership. Mark thought he was building security for himself, but with every secret he kept, he was chipping away at the very foundation of his life. Now let's talk about Jessica and David. They were the couple everyone adored, high school sweethearts, built a simple life together, built a happy life together. David was a firefighter, a true hero in his community. Jessica worked part-time at the local library. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had a wealth of love. They lived in a small, cozy house that they had slowly fixed up over their 20 years of marriage. Their two daughters were their world: laughter, community potlucks, and the quiet joy of a shared history. They were a team in every sense of the word. Then everything changed. Jessica's parents passed away unexpectedly, leaving her a substantial inheritance. It wasn't a mega lottery win, but it was life-changing money. A beautiful farmhouse with acres of land and a significant investment portfolio. At first, David was thrilled for her. He saw it as a blessing that would give Jessica security and ease after years of hard work. He imagined them paying off their mortgage, setting up college funds for the girls, and maybe even taking that trip to Italy they had always dreamed of. But the inheritance had a strange effect on Jessica. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, she began to change. The money, instead of bringing them closer, became a source of division. She started referring to it as my inheritance and my money. She made major financial decisions without consulting David, buying an expensive luxury car designer clothes. She talked about selling their beloved family home to move into the larger, more isolated farmhouse. The woman David had loved for her warmth and simplicity was being replaced by someone he barely recognized. Someone who was cold, distant, and obsessed with her newfound status. David tried to talk to her, to understand what was happening. He reminded her that they had always made decisions together, as a family, but Jessica became defensive and cruel. She accused him of being jealous and wanting to control her money. She told him that after years of living on his modest salary, it was her turn to be in charge. It is the message that we all have the power of choice. We can choose fear, or we can choose love. We can choose secrecy, or we can choose transparency. We can choose to accumulate for ourselves, or we can choose to build with a partner. You are the author of your life story. So I ask you today, what will you write on the next page? Choose wisely. Choose love. You all have a blessed day. It's about understanding that the greatest wealth you will ever accumulate is the love you give and the love you receive. That is your true legacy. That is the only investment that pays dividends for a lifetime.